One more sleep. Don't forget, SEN, no matter where you're listening in the world, have got it covered. Just jump on the SEN app, and a lot of people do it through the Apple AirPlay while you're in the car. That's all fine. You can choose your adventure. So the All Queensland call, the neutral call, the Blues bias call, have your say. I'm doing the Blues bias call with Luke Prittis, the Clive Churchill medalist, and Jewel, Clive Churchill medalist. Noddy Kamali is going to join us for that. We'll have a bit of fun live from the Sporting Globe. 1300 01 1170. Origin returns to Suncorp. Let's fire this Origin up, Brian. I feel like it needs to be fired up, and I'm very nervous. Tino gun, Munster gun, Harry gun, Ponga gun. It feels flip of the coin-ish, Suncorp Stadium.
I agree. As we've mentioned previously this week, we've seen this before. I never forget the $1.34 hot pots we were. Yeah. And we got rolled. Remember when Munster had COVID?
Yep. Mate, Munster full stop. Munster should never play in a team that's above even money. He's a gun.
Yeah. It's going to be close. Look, this is a great-looking side, but we've just got to live up to that, and hopefully we're patient enough. Yep. We are patient enough because, as we know in Origin, it's going to come down to the last 5 minutes.
Yep.
10 minutes.
There's two players who are very good at that. That's staring comp. It is Mitchell Moses. It is Cleary. So that they will just want to keep putting it in that cage, as they like to call it, Brian. That area 10 metres out from your goal line, 10 in from the sideline. Just keep dropping the ball there. Keep dropping the ball there. And Cameron Smith came out actually on 100% football, and he said that was his concern, that the whole game, if they're not on their game, is just coming off their own line.
Yeah, which was why we picked Moses, I'd imagine. Yep. That's why he's gone with both the best, arguably the best number one and number two kicking game in the NRL.
Who does more kicks of the two?
Nathan will do the short stuff, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that cage kick's going to be all Moses on the right, isn't it?
Moses just that because he can kick at 60 in the air, 60 on the fly.
So who's that? That left winger is going to have the sponsor knocked off their shirt. Is that Coates?
It's Coates, but then there was a bit of a rumour going around that they might move Coates over to To'o to get him over the top of.
Really?
That's that's his side.
That'd be risky.
Maybe they were just playing ducks and drapes at training.
Well, it would be risky because then you'd have Toya and Coates and
Valdust against Lomax, who's very good in the air as well.
Yeah, it'd be very risky. But anyway, we'll see how that plays out. Bobby Toya, good on him. This young fellow.
Yeah.
I wish him all the best. He's a Queenslander. Still want to see him do well. And Daly Cherry Evans, my man, becomes the oldest player in Origin history, passing fellow Maroon Petro Civoniceva, Brian.
Yeah. As they say, Father Time is undefeated.
Yep.
So if he can handle this, at the age, what is he, 37, is he? 36?
Is he 37 now?
How old is he? What does Ricky say? How old's Daly Cherry? Hey, Rick, how old's Daly Cherry Evans?
47.
So he's 47. That's why he doesn't want him down there.
That's right.
I think he's 36.
Okay. The Maroons, by the way, love Suncorp. That's no surprise. They've won 6 of the last 8 games there, and the Blues have not won back-to-back games at Suncorp since 1997, Brian.
Okay.
97-98. We've not gone back-to-back there at the Cauldron. The Maroons have won 5 of the last 6 series opening games, so they love getting off to a flyer. And Nathan Cleary requires 6 points to become the second Blues player to score 100 points. He's only getting started, Nathan Cleary, and he's breaking all these records.
This one here, Valentine Holmes with the 34th Maroon to play 20 Origin matches. Now, I didn't know this. The bus that they have, they had a bus, the Queensland bus, and there's differing players on there. I'm thinking to myself, you got some players from different eras that weren't actual standouts.
Right.
Because Wally wasn't on there. Or maybe Wally.
What do you mean? Just explain
on the bus, on the Queensland bus.
Like pictures of them?
Yeah, pictures of them, sorry.
Yeah.
They're portraits. And the only ones who get on that bus is anyone who's played more than 20 Origins. I didn't know that.
Oh, is that right?
Yep. Fun fact.
Okay, well, just on that, Valentine Holmes will become the 34th Maroon to play 20 Origin matches. So one day he'll be...
His face will be on the Greyhound.
Yeah, would they do that while he's playing? Like, would he jump on his own bus?
I think they do.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Okay, all right. We're on the bus. Stuff we missed. Thanks to Chemist Warehouse. You can get discounted prescriptions and save more money at Chemist Warehouse. Well, anything you've missed this week, of course, you can get through the podcast. Or, Brian, we're now on the big stage, aren't we?
Yep.
YouTube, 7:30 every night.
Oh, here we go. Josh Holmes said on Sports Day that he will be on the left wing with Hammer.
Yep, that makes sense.
Toya and Coates on the right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, right. So Coates is going to the right.
And Valdust is going to go the other way.
Okay.
So Coates over the top of Toya. Of To'o.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting fact.
I reckon his debut, Coates, there might have been, I think he played the Sharks and they did a crossfield kick to him playing for the Broncos at the time and he flew by on the right wing.
Was that his...
You're nodding Brooks, do you recall that?
It was at Shark Park because
that was his debut.
He scored that awesome, he dunked on Daniel Atkinson.
Yeah.
And on the other side, he did the other great try in his debut. It was like full circle.
Yep.
Did you know a blue whale's anus can stretch to over 1 metre in diameter?
A blue
Now, this is not mine. This is Western Sydney Eagle. This makes it the second largest arse on the planet, just behind anyone born in New South Wales who supports
here we go. Here we
That's
go.
a good one, Western Sydney Eagle.
Go.
Here we go. Rooster Man wants me to say, ask Claude, should DCE go to Canberra and Fogarty go to Manly?
Where does, we haven't really spoken about this, but where does Reed Mahoney, does he leave the kennel before June 30 or not?
He'll go to the Cows, but no.
No, I think it's next year.
The tourist thinks the lasso's out there. He thinks he's going to the Cows.
Yeah, he's a Queenslander.
Does he do a detour? It screams detour, doesn't it? Because
No detour.
No detour.
No detour.
Do you think he'll go to the Cows this year?
No, I think he'll stay the end of the year. I don't think he'll get there in time.
Yeah.
I think he'll just have to suck it up and stay there.
Wow.
And he's a bit like what you're saying. He wants to win a premiership. So he was thinking, you know what, Gus? Unless they turn around and go, well, mate, you're going to be put in reserve grade.
Yep.
And young Bailey Hayward's going to be 9.
Jeez whiz. That's going to be fascinating how this plays out. I love this time of week, Brian. Do you?
Of course.
Yeah. Why?
Of course, because it's Tootsie. He's coming in hot.
Yeah, Tootsie on a Tuesday.
Tootsie, welcome, first of all.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me again, boys.
No, we love having you. I want to ask you this. So, Joey Tarpany, what was said and why was he so angry? He just went berserk there in that game against the Warriors. What was doing there?
He did, mate. To be honest, the boys got home yesterday and had the day off, so I haven't seen anyone yet to find out. I actually went in there this morning thinking they might have been myself sitting in the sauna doing nothing all morning. So I haven't actually seen what happened, but I don't know how long it's going to take people to learn not to pug the bear. But every time they fire him up, he's a physical man, and he leads by his actions. And he was great again on the weekend. I thought Big Papa was pretty good too. He only played a short stint off the bench, but he was really good. So big win over there, wasn't it, boys?
Oh, it was huge. And even young Tamale was getting into the crowd as well. Did you see that at full time?
Yeah, mate, he's a really placid kid. No, he's a real placid kid, really quiet, doesn't say much, very, very shy. And, I spoke to a few of the guys who were in there this morning, just getting some physio and stuff like that, and they just said it was over there. Like, they were copping it from all angles. And, when they were walking off the field, they were just absolutely copping it still. So it was a pretty hostile environment. And looks like the boys weren't afraid to give it back to him either, which probably stirred the locals up a little bit more. But, I doubt they were going out to the pubs and that after as well to have a few beers. They might have been in a bit of trouble there. But, yeah, nonetheless, a good win, and especially over there, the way they're going.
Chatting with Raiders legend, rugby league legend, Jarrod Croker. Now, Tootsie, can I just ask you, because your coach loves Ricky Stewart to mostly coach from the sideline. What's the differences there? So a lot of coaches will coach from the box. Have you had the opportunity to do both, and what's the differences there?
Look, probably from a coaching perspective, it's a lot easier to, you sit up in the box, and which I do a lot at home. You sit up in the box and you can see everything. Like it's easy. It's like watching on computer. You think you're I would have been Greg Inglis if I could have played from the coach's box. Like you just see everything up there, and everything sort of looks a lot easier than what it is. But when you're on the sideline, you get the feel for the game, the passion, the involvement, and how the boys are going, what the atmosphere is like, what the physicality is like, just from standing on the sideline. It makes you want to get out there and sort of play. So it's really hard because you need to do both, and that's why you've got to have good assistant coaches and good people up high when you're looking down at the game to see the detail and the finer detail. But Stick likes being on the sideline at the moment and feeling, getting the feel for the game, and that can help with your interchange as well. Like it might look like someone's tired from up in the box, but Stick's down on the sideline watching one of the middles, doing his repeat efforts or something like that, where, you get a bit of a feel for the game and momentum in the game and those sorts of things as well. So it's a really hard balancing act. And, sometimes Stick just likes to be down there with Joshy Miller, I think, and put a jersey on and go mad because Joshy Miller stands in there and looks like he wants to fly on the field and flog someone. But it's a fine line, but it's good.
Now, Tootsie, my learned colleague here, now he's quite smart, he's quite sharp, but he's come up with a howler of all howlers. So he said...
You're taking sand to a beach here.
No, I'm not. No,
you are taking sand to a beach here.
Not.
What do you think he's going to say?
This is what he said to me. You know what the Raiders should do? They should get rid of Fogarty, put him to Manly now, and grab DCE because DCE is going to win them a premiership. And I said, you're off your head. And all of our listeners, all 65,000 of them, all came back and said, Joel, you're off your head. What does Tootsie say?
Oh, sand to a beach. Come on. Surprise me.
Come on, Sandy.
Joel, you're kidding, aren't you?
Yeah.
You've let down Jammer too. I think Jammer's going to be the one who's disappointed with that.
Yes.
No, I love
the babysitter, mate. The babysitter.
I know.
The singlet-wearing babysitter.
I love him. I love him, right? But I'm just saying that he wants to go to Manly. That's fine. And you're in a rare window where Canterbury have... Well, maybe not want to. That's right.
Okay, well, give him your logic.
Well, my logic is this, that DCE, who Billy Slater has picked to be representing his state, Brian, and Billy Slater might have won a couple of Clive Churchill medals.
Yes, that's
He's
fine.
picked him,
Yeah.
right? And I love Jammer, and I love him as a player.
Beep, beep.
No, I do.
Beep.
But I already
Back that
said
up.
this. But if my life was on the line, I would like Daly Cherry Evans there and in front of just about every halfback in the competition,
Mate,
named Moses or Cleary.
I would have DCE 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago.
Right.
Not at the moment, and not what Jamal is doing for that team, that particular team.
Okay, Jabba Jaws. Okay. Why don't you look down the gun barrel and address Nick Politis and say, would you like Daly Cherry Evans next year or two, yes or no? As a Roosters, great.
Yeah, Nick, how are you? It's Brian. Do you remember me? Remember you got rid of me? Would you like Daly Cherry Evans at your club next year?
Yes. And what's your answer? What's your recommendation to Nick?
I've got no recommendation. That's because this is not. We're arguing about something here. You're a deflector.
No.
Because we've got Tootsie on there. Sorry.
Okay, listen. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. That's good.
The worst,
I'm with you, Fletch.
Yeah, good on you.
And so are 90% of the population, except for Matty Rogers, who's a legend of the game. Anyway, the worst 9 letters you could ever hear on a Tuesday.
Oh, no.
When it comes to young is abandoned.
I know. I just checked too. It makes me sick. Makes me sick. That's 3 weeks in a row we've missed out on the river. I do have one for us at the graveyard, and we actually had a winner at the graveyard last week.
We did. Yep.
Montefiore. It actually come out and run second again on Saturday night in a good race too, at a good price, that horse. But I've got one in the last, and it's actually, I think it's a pretty good chance. It's race 8. I think it's number 7. Our Vincent can go. Luke McCarthy on board, which is always the best in the business, which helps. I think it's about $3.40 or $50.
Great name.
Find it there.
Great name.
Yeah.
Vincent can go, Brian.
Yeah, it was really well. I was on it actually, but it was really well backed, not by me, but a couple of weeks ago in a Saturday night race, and just had a real tough run and still went really good. So if you can repeat that, he'll be pretty hard to beat there today in the graveyard. But we need the Riverina and the Wizard back in the next couple of weeks, boys.
Yeah. Well, this is when you said 8 letters. I was thinking,
9, Brian.
Oh, 9, because 8's got Menangle, and then. We don't like that either.
No.
Graveyard's probably Graveyard's 8 as well.
That took me that long to count those letters.
By the way, our Vincent can go, I'm only backing it if there's a McCarthy driver or trainer. One of the two I'll take.
He's trained and drives it, I think.
Yeah, no, Luke and John combining for this, so...
Luke and John is it? Yeah, the old man, yeah.
Anyway.
He's one of the best in the business, Luke, so he'll be right.
Yeah, best in the business. He's also the babysitter at your house, Brian, our man, look, Gemma.
Tootsie, before you go, are you watching Mobland? Please say yes.
Yes. I tried to catch up last 2 nights and fell asleep with a laptop on my chest, but I'm right amongst it. I love it.
Okay, but spoiler alert.
Fell asleep with a laptop on his chest. That'll go on the headlines.
Eddie's porking Harry's daughter.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. He handled that well, Harry. He handled it very well.
Oh, wait till you see Maeve. Go at her. Heavy.
Yeah. Surveillance.
She was out of what's the show? She was in 1883, or wasn't she? She's a real nice old lady, and then
Helen Mirren.
Yeah. She's brutal.
She loves Rex Hunt. Yibbida.
The old man who goes to sleep with a laptop on his chest. Good on you, mate. Good to chat.
Thanks.
There he is, Tootsie Croker. True Crime Tuesday. Now, many of you may have listened to the podcast, The Teacher's Pet, to which, if you're giving out Dally M points, Brian, our next guest would have got maximum points. He was amazing in his pursuit towards the conviction, right? the Dawson case that was. Damien Loone, we're talking about Detective Sergeant of the New South Wales Police Force. We have had Ashley Hanson on, who is leading the charge when it comes to this latest podcast, which is blowing up for News Limited, called Dear Rachelle. And I'm pleased to say Damien Loone on True Crime Tuesday joins the run home with Joel and Fletch. Damien, good afternoon to you.
G'day, guys. Go Joel and go Fletch.
Mate, I've got to say, mate, I often think about this. If I had to come back in another vocation, another world, I have so much awe for what you do. It is amazing what you and your teammates do, and you're on this huge case which is blowing up. I want to say congratulations to you for that, but how's things all been?
Look, Joel, I retired in 2021, and I just one day I was busy, and the next day I looked at my phone at 3 in the morning and I had no phone calls, and I wanted to know why, and I realised, hang on, you retired yesterday afternoon. So it's been a crazy ride, but look, it's given me time to reflect now and give me some time to, have a look at some of these old cold cases when they reach out for some assistance, and it's been I must say, a blessing in disguise.
Damien, when you did retire, so you were in the force for 35 years, was that going to be it? Like, did you think to yourself, right, I can't wait, I'm going to retire and play golf? Or did you always have like a bit of a itch to scratch?
No, I really I didn't really transition to retirement very well. I never really thought what I was going to do. But I did get remarried, and I suppose the saving grace there was that I moved from my country station over to a coastal station on the north coast, or coastal town, and I never thought I'd be doing this. I thought I'd be playing lawn bowls and a heap of golf and a heap of fishing, but that's sort of gone by the wayside at the moment.
Can I ask you this, Damien, without naming any individuals, of course, but your involvement in the Teacher's Pet podcast obviously came to a conclusion. This one you're on now, Dear Rachelle, Ashley Hanson at the helm of that, News Limited running it, and they can't keep up with me, Brian. I'm refreshed. I need to keep hearing this podcast. Yourself is heavily involved in this. Do you feel similarly there will be an outcome in this also?
I believe so, and I believe a prime suspect has been identified. As I say, I won't name names, but look, all the fingers are pointing in the right direction at the moment, and I firmly believe that with the help of the community getting behind this podcast, and we've already had people reach out to us already to ask some questions, and no questions are stupid. They're all great questions, and I firmly believe with the reinvestigation by the Unsolved Homicide Squad that, and they're monitoring the podcast as well. I'll let you tell you that now. It's no biggie, but I do believe that this is solvable. And a young 23-year-old girl was murdered and callously set alight in a ditch on the Crook River Road at Taroa back in June the 8th, 2001.
Damien, I wanted you to go back, take you back to the Teacher's Pet podcast. How did that first, because you were still serving then, is that correct, when they reached out to you?
Yes, I was. And look, I was not allowed to be part of that podcast. However, in the old days before we went digitalised, we had VHS tapes, and we used to give the copy of the witnesses a tape, which was theirs to keep.
Yep.
And the other two were booked up for evidentiary purposes and transcription. So, those tapes were released to Hedley Thomas from the Teacher's Pet, and I play a major part in that. And then after the conviction and after I retired, I was then allowed to speak publicly on that case.
Well, that was my next question. How do you feel about now being outside of the police and this one, the Dear Rachelle one in particular? Is there a bit of animosity between the current investigators and you, or are you working as a team?
Look, I know the guys that worked on this back in the day, and they did their damnedest and best to find the evidence to charge somebody with it, but they fell short. And yet again, like with the Teacher's Pet podcast, I fought for years with the DPP to have Chris Dawson indicted on a charge of murder. And, eventually, and I think because of the popularity of the podcast and the common sense that went behind it, that no mother like that would just run off and leave her two little kitties that she dearly loved. There had to be an outcome, and we subsequently saw that on the 30th of August 2022 when Chris Dawson was found guilty by a judge-alone trial.
Can I ask you this? Damien, when it comes to these cases, right, so we probably naively think that, okay, Damien Loone's on this case and therefore he's 100% in that. As a detective sergeant, when you're on a case, how many cases could you be on at one time?
Up to 20 or 30
wow.
at any one time. And they're various matters, not only just homicides, but other serial crime and serious crimes that detectives have to investigate. Plus, I was also on call. I was also a police negotiator on call. So, I had a lot of things to do. And, the Dawson case, I went to the unsolved homicide for assistance. So they knocked me back a number of times, which they just said, look, you're doing as much as we can do, so keep going.
Wow.
And then eventually, 2015, they did take it over and was able to secure a conviction years later.
With the Dear Rachelle, because I'm not as far into it as Joel is, but I'm up to the bit where there is 9 persons of interest. Have those 9 always been on the police radar, or is this sort of new information since the podcast?
No, those 9 were on the radar in the early days of the investigation. And one part of your investigation strategy is to start eliminating those persons of interest and those check their alibis, etc. And it firmly came down to just one that just doesn't have an alibi, and he's told his version to the coroner, but it's not confirmed. And so it was just a simple elimination.
Right. So the person of interest now, because in the podcast they go back in time and they see, was the police back then aware of his other, or they were indiscretions when you speak to those other ladies. Were the police aware of those allegations back then?
They would have been aware of the 4 trials that he'd been previously committed to stand trial for on various sexual assault allegations. But however, there was no conviction. Each jury trial, he was acquitted and found not guilty, which, under our justice system, that's how it works. But they would have been well aware of that, and that certainly would have raised an ire amongst the investigators to start looking at someone firmly, and that's what I would have done back in the time if I had worked on this case.
Damien, can I ask a question around, because for me, and very first podcast I ever heard was a podcast called Serial over there in the States, to which the podcast blew up and there was a retrial. Adnan Syed, he was the guy who served time. Can I ask you this, having been on both sides of this now, where you're participating in a podcast, but equally you've also been on the side of the force as a detective sergeant, do you see value in the pair coming together? Because I know that the police can be very protective of the likes of Ashley Hanson doing the podcast, and you can understand why, but equally there must be benefits as well from broadcasting such a situation.
Look, I'll go back to what our former commissioner said back in 2021, and he said that the Teacher's Pet podcast was the most unbelievable evidence-gathering technique that he's ever witnessed.
Wow.
And I must say that we have to understand now that we've got some very smart investigative journalists out there. We've also got very smart members of the community who have information. And I believe now that it's, I know that police don't say too much, and that's for operational reasons, and I get that. But, we have to really start thinking and putting our hats on together and working as a team and helping the authorities arrest the person responsible.
The gentleman or female, the suspect that it's been whittled down to one, what is the next steps for did they reopen the case, or has the case always been open? And if they do charge him, how long do you feel, or how much more evidence do they need?
Look, they're sort of questions that they're not going to be forthcoming to Ashley or myself, and I'll leave that with them. And that's for, as I said, for critical protection of the brief. But Strikeforce TELAP, TELAP, has been stood up, and it is reinvestigating at this stage, and they are monitoring the information and the content that's coming through the podcast. And I'm sure that they'll be out there, seeing these witnesses that are coming forward and taking further statements. And there's nothing to say that you can't charge somebody. It's been, even though a coroner has said that she died and the person's unknown, the offender, you can always take it back to the coroner's court if you've got further evidence, or if you have the evidence which the DPP may charge or may prosecute, that you'll charge the offender with the count of homicide, and it'll to be taken over by the DPP.
Right.
Okay, so we are chatting with Detective Sergeant of the New South Wales Police Force, well, retired, 35 years, Damien Loone, who's heavily involved in this podcast, which is Dear Rachelle. News Limited have got it covered. If you're a subscriber of Daily Telegraph, you get it straight away, which I've been getting it straight away, refreshing. What about in your career, Damien? Is there any other cold case or any other sort of situation where you're going, I'd love to spend more time on that?
I investigated a case that was 49 years old back in 2016, where a young girl, 3-year-old girl called Cheryl Grimmer, went missing from Ferrymeadow Beach at Wollongong. And 49 years later, I was able to arrest an offender and charge him with murder. It went to trial. The record of interview that he participated in back in 1971, when he was a 17-year-old, was stated to be inadmissible because of the fact that he didn't have a person in authority with him when he was making the confession. Now, back in 1971, that wasn't required, and the Justice Hume told the court proceedings that he's going to apply retrospective law, which wasn't required for a further 6 years later. So this is a very disappointing outcome for the family, and yet the evidence, I believe, was strong.
Damien, you're just talking about how when you were serving, you could be on as much as up to 20 different cases. Is it the lack of police in the force now that you have to be like overloaded with this work, or is it that's the norm? Is that how it's always been?
Well, look, it's sort of like been there for a long time. You have pressing cases. You have multiple fraud banners, sexual assaults, serious assaults, homicides, etc. A lot of suicides, which the detectives do a lot of the briefs for, and they're the ones that stay on your system until you eventually get to them. And every 28 days you have to look at these cases closely, and then at some stages you may have to make a decision to that's going to go on hold now because there's no further evidence. But particularly when a homicide would come into the office or a murder, it was all hands on deck.
So there's no just task force just for homicide. So when you're in the police, you've got to do everything.
As a divisional detective, they're the ones that work out in the police stations.
Yeah.
When there's a serious incident, we form a task force. We get 72 hours worth of assistance from other officers from different commands. But after that initial 72 hours, it goes back to your responsibility to run that inquiry.
Damien Loone, you received the National Police Service Medal, the New South Wales Police Commendation, the New South Wales Police Medal and the New South Wales Police Commissioner's Emergency Commendation. Do you miss the day-to-day grind at all, or are you quite happy in retirement?
Oh, look, I still miss it. I still see the cop car running around town with the sirens on and wondering where they're going to. But I've got a good bunch of mates who now in my similar lot right now are retired, and we get together for a coffee each week or a couple of days, and we talk about the good old days of Manly, which my old mate Hoppy said I should mention tonight. So.
Well, my investigations tell me, Damien, and maybe Hoppy's part of this as well, that you may have listened to the Run Home with Joel and Fletch from time to time. Is that true? Are you guilty?
I am guilty as charged.
Well, as you know, we read our texts, and we've got one here, Damien, that says, can we please ask Damien why can't the person that they're looking at, the person, why can't he or she leave the country?
Well, there's nothing there to say that he can't.
Right.
So, there's no order. I'm sure I'd be well aware that the police, we can monitor people's movements if they do depart the country. But I wouldn't know at this stage if that's in place.
Okay. And I want to ask you
a question. Brian.
Like, how close are the police to closing in on this person of interest?
Well, I think the evidence now that's coming through the podcast, they'd be taking very seriously. Yeah. And I can't speak for what they're doing, but I would imagine that they're busy. They are re-interviewing some of these witnesses or seeking out the new ones that have come forward. And this is what we want. We want the people to come forward. Someone must have some information that they may have been intimidated in knowing a relationship all those years ago, and now suddenly they're not, so they're free to speak. Or even though sometimes it's just a word that's so important that they've overheard and maybe has talked to the suspect. If they can, because as I said, no question's silly. So if you want to make a comment, and you can go to the Crime Stoppers hotline 1-800-333-000 and say this is what I heard or this is what I saw, and it'll all piece together.
Okay, I know you got to go, and we've got to go. I want to ask you this: is it unusual for a judge to exhume a body that's already been involved in a case, as the Dear Rachelle podcast states?
No, it's not, and it can be quite common in some circumstances when there's evidence there of a suspect saying that something. I think it was Nettie Smith said when Sally Ann Huckstep that she scratched him on the face, and he may have had some DNA underneath her nails, and they exhumed her body for that. And on this particular case, Rachelle's body was exhumed because someone had made a comment about something underneath the fingernails or the fingers being severed, and so that wasn't the case.
And if the family said no, we don't want it, can you still go and do it, or do they have to give you permission?
Well, it would be in discussions with the family and for the best interest of the information, but ultimately it'll be a coroner that can make that order.
Oh, okay. So if that family said no, you can still go ahead. Right.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Damien Loone, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us on the run home with Joel and Fletch. Now, the good news is you're doing a wonderful job and you're most sought after. The bad news is you're doing such a good job. I don't think you're ever going to retire. I think every big case that jumps up, Damien Loone, they're going to ask you to be a part of it, as Ashley Hansen and the team at Dear Rachelle have done. The first episode's called The Long Weekend, sets up the story perfectly. You can listen to the podcast and learn more on the case at dearrachelle.com.au, supported by News Limited, Daily Telegraph. Damien Loone, it's been an absolute treat.
Whoa. Who wins tomorrow night? And score, please, Damien.
Manly 12-zip.
Oh, Manly.
What does that mean, Brian? Manly 12-zip?
Oh, that means Daily Cherry Evans.
Daily Cherry Evans, there you go.
Freudian slip.
Damien.
There
he is. Damien Loone, what a great man and doing a wonderful job. As I said, the podcast is Dear Rachelle, the first episode, The Long Weekend. Damien Loone, thank you very much. You're listening to The Run Home with Joel and Fletch on this True Crime Tuesday.
So this is a lovely. So you would have seen this go every year. It's gone viral. So French President Emmanuel Macron downplays wife shoving him in the face as couple joking after footage goes viral. French President Macron has brushed off the interaction caught on camera showing his wife, Bridget, shoving him in the face. So she used the palm of her hand in an upward motion.
Stiff arm.
Yeah. With the president claiming she was just joking. Doesn't look like I've seen this. I've seen this palm and I've had this palm many times. The footage, which has gone viral, the French president appears to be pushed in the face by his wife while appearing in the doorway of the plane. And Miss Macron then seemingly refuses to hold her husband's arm as the pair walk down the steps onto the tarmac. The couple had just touched down in Vietnam on Sunday night to embark on a tour, blah, 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 blah. I was bickering, or rather joking with my wife, says Macron. The French president pointed to what the videos of him posted on social media. In recent weeks, we'd said him being twisted by people he called crackpots.
Yeah.
He cited a video of him during a recent trip to the Ukraine showing him removing a crumpled white item from the table of a train that some people on social media had suggested was a bag of cocaine.
Oh.
Which his office said was simply a tissue.
Sacre bleu.
Bless you.
So he's under the pump a little bit. So maybe he's been participating on the Grand Hackets and his wife has found him.
Oh.
And said, you know what, I'm going to try and get that out of your bugle. And reached up for it and tried to pull it down.
Oh. Do you know what, right? So would he not be best, to be honest, and just go, look, yeah, we're having a bit of a fight.
Yeah.
That's what everyone does, right? So would he not been better off just owning that?
Yeah, maybe they're fighting over policies.
Policies?
Yeah, big policies up there.
Have you seen the Untold Liver King?
Yes. We discussed this.
Yeah, no, we discussed it at the start, but all I'm saying is, did you like how he came out? Did you like his response, how he handled it? So once he was become a fraud, so to speak, was that the way to handle it, do you think, Brooks?
Well, he denied it for so long.
Yeah.
7 years.
And then he came out and went, yeah, I'm doing it. And then he basically didn't really sell the fact that he sort of deflected. with the whole process of the whole taking drugs. He then started telling us about his sad story.
An insecure upbringing and all that sort of stuff.
And it was like he didn't own it. It was like, yeah, I did it, but this is why.
The reasons
and
why.
Like tried to.
I was off him when he
bring
was.
on
I
the
was off him when he
waterworks.
was doing the. When he does that.
The wakeboarding.
The wakeboarding got me, and also like pushing a giant tire in the water. And he names his kids like those kids are going to have trauma.
What about his second kid? Do you know what his name is?
Liverface.
No, his middle name is Ickle.
Ickle.
Ickle. That's his middle name.
First name T.
Rad. Yeah.
Radical.
That's his name.
That's it.
That's the Liver King's young bloke.
Yeah,
John's
those
surname.
kids, I can see those kids having problems in adolescence.
Yep. You can be too heavy-handed as parents who get way too involved, who are trying to
Vic
make
LaRusso.
up for the short...
Average.
Vic LaRusso.
Oh, the
Helicopter parents.
Yeah,
What are you saying, Victor?
Oh, Meccano said trouble down there. There's trouble at Rose Hill, James Bruce Drive. French president met his wife when he was 15. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
This is from Brett from Kingsgrove. French president met his wife when he was 15 and she was his 39-year-old teacher.
Wow.
Yeah, a bit of cougar.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I could.
Yeah.
Well,
24 years?
I think so. Yeah, I'm with the text on
okay,
here.
Brett, that explains a lot. So he's in his prime now, and
Yeah.
she's out. Like, you know, she's...
Although French women's primer is a bit older. It's like life expectancy.
I was in France, and you know how the dogs can go on the trains? They let their greyhounds, they let their German Shepherd, there was a German Shepherd directly opposite me. Right?
Really?
German Shepherd just jumps on, straight in front of me, does the biggest shit you've ever seen right there.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Oh.
And then his dog did one as well in front of me.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
Heavy.
Well done, Brian. Well done.
You're still here? We'll see more on the Joel and Fletch socials and catch us live on SEN Radio. Because if you don't, you're an A grade. But if you do, you're the absolute Mickey.